Your lucky mic. He said, here's my lucky mic. Nothing ever goes wrong with it. Good job. Welcome, everybody, to our night 2 of our All Candidates Forum, brought to you by the Fort St. John and District Chamber of Commerce. My name is Cheryl Montgomery. We're excited to be here. As you know, the Chamber is a non-partisan, non-political organization, so it's good for us to host these kinds of things because we're completely neutral. But I do want to welcome you all for coming, and those who were here last night. It was a great night. I think we had a good opportunity to see our candidates that are running for council, and tonight's a big night too, as we have our mayoral candidates here, and I hope you have brought lots of questions for them. I do want to mention that this year's election, of course, is critical. We have a major changeover with our council, our city council, that's going to be deciding the direction of our community and some of the projects that will be happening, and it's important that we all have a say with that. I do want to quickly just acknowledge our partners with this, Moose FM, Energetic City, the Lido Alaska Highway News, BC Northern Housing, and of course the Fort St. John Chamber. So again, I want to welcome you all, and I want to introduce you to our moderator tonight, Ted Sloan, and he's going to keep everything on track and give you the rules. Good luck to our candidates, and we're looking forward to this. Again, please get your questions ready to be able to come up during the audience period. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Well, welcome back to our wonderful audience. Good evening to our esteemed candidates, all those in attendance, and all those who are watching at home tonight. We'd like to acknowledge first and foremost that this land is situated on Treaty 8 territory, on the traditional lands of the Denezaw peoples of the Doig River First Nation, the Blueberry River First Nation, and the Halfway River First Nation, where we live and learn tonight. My name is Ted Sloan. I'm honored to be your moderator. We're going to begin with a few housekeeping things. For those of you here last night, you'll hear some of the same things and some new things. For our candidates, tonight our format is this. We're going to be starting with opening statements. Then we're going to have questions by me. There will be a chance for you to ask each other questions, a chance for the audience to ask you questions, and then you will end with closing. I will also review each segment as we get there, so don't feel like you had to memorize that. I truly wish you the best of luck tonight. I am so excited that you're here. By stepping up and to step in case of unnecessary conflict. Again, at each new segment, I'm going to also remind you of time limits as they change ever so slightly. And I also appreciate the respect that you'll show each other tonight. Audience, super excited to see you. As I mentioned last night, this is truly one of the most exciting things we can do. We are helping to shape and guide our own futures in a democratic way. I'm also thankful for your respectful nature. Our city works best when we work together, and tonight we work together by letting our candidates speak and be heard, even when we don't agree with each other. At this time, I encourage you, if you do have a cell phone, to take it out and to put it on silent, and that tonight you remain respectfully quiet so that others may hear things. Cheryl is in front of me, and so candidates, this is important for you. This is our timekeeper, and Cheryl has this red light in front. With 20 seconds to go in your answer, so you have 20 seconds left, Cheryl will flash that once. That means that you have 20 seconds to wrap up whatever you're saying. Just like that, perfect. The second time she turns it on, I will step in and say thank you, and I will effectively end your conversation there. So one warning, and then we get to our end. We're going to start with our opening statements. You've been given 2.5 minutes to introduce yourself and tell us why we should vote for you. The order tonight, last night we went from this way, so we happen to be going this way. So tonight you will start with the opening statements, then we'll go to you, Stephen, and then we'll go to you, Lilia. And then for closing statements, we'll go the opposite way. So again, you'll have 2.5 minutes. When it comes time to you, I'll let you know when to start. And again, you have 2.5 minutes. So Shannon, you are our first one up. I'll say 3, 2, on your own time, and then you can begin. So here we are with our opening statements. 3, 2, on your own time, sir. Oh, is it green?
Is it green?
There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Well, I'm Shannon Stange, and that's how you pronounce my last name. Everyone asks that. and I am born, raised up here, and had family here in this community for decades. Over the last decade specifically, I've been coming back and forth between Vancouver, where I raised my family, in order to care for a father who has had many struggles here in this community, but who has been a valuable member of this community over the many decades that he's lived here. And in the process of walking with my father and enjoying the friendships and the support that this community has offered me in helping my family through those seasons, the relationships that I've had with the people here have been ones that have made me want to come back home. They're the values and the types of things that people stand for up here are things that resonate with my soul. And so when I came to this point where I came back a year and a half ago to take care of my father, move him out of his house, buy the family home off of him, and move back here, in that process, I realized, I'm coming back not just because I love this community, but because I have something to bring back to it. I have something of value that I've learned over the years of who I am and what I've done. And, a lot of people wonder who I am and what I've done. I've been involved in business over the last 30 years, starting and buying and selling a number of different companies. And while I've been doing that, I've also been starting communities of faith. And primarily, I did the one in order to support the other, because I never took an income in order to do the second, which was a passion of mine, because I'm a people person at heart. And so the primary thing that I bring to the table here as someone who wants to serve this community is someone who has a head for business, but a heart for people. And if you get to know me throughout the rest of this evening, that's the one thing I want you to come away with, is that I have a head for business, but my heart is for the people of this community. And if you'll give me a chance, I will serve you.
Thank you. Stephen, it will be yours next. If you can just make sure your mic has a little green light on the bottom. Excellent. All right, Stephen, on your own time, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, constituents. Sorry, I had some dental work done today, so I would like to thank Ted, Cheryl, the Chamber of Commerce, my fellow running mates on a job well done so far. A little bit about me. I am a transplant here in Fort St. John. I've been here 4 years now, and I absolutely love it. We came up here from the Kootenays. My spouse and I, we have 6 kids between us, 2 daughters up here that are having grandbabies, and Mama didn't want to be a Facebook grandmother. So we decided to pick up everything and came up here. I'm a blue-collar worker. I've worked hard all my life. I grew up in a family business with my dad, my mother, my 2 brothers, my sister, my aunt. So I know the closeness of family. Family is big for me. And what I would like to do here in Fort St. John is keep that family together, because family is important for everybody. And my kids love it here. They won't be leaving. We won't be leaving. They'll be taking me out in a box. So I'm here to give my knowledge, and hopefully you guys will get your trust in me, that we can get things done. I would like to just say thanks very much for letting me run. And I am an open book. My office will be open. I'm sorry there will be no coffee, because I'm not a coffee drinker. There will be lots of water, but I'm running a bare bones campaign. If you want to know anything, my phone number is in there, my email. I will get back to you right away. And I'd like to say thanks very much.
Thank you, Stephen. We turn to you, Lilia, just to make sure, does your microphone have a green light? Excellent. On your own time tonight.
I'm Lilia Hansen, candidate for Fort St. John Mayor. I'd like to thank the organizers and attendees for joining us this evening, and I'd like to recognize that we're on the traditional land of the Denishaw people. Residents are my priority, economic development is my passion, and helping my neighbors is my motivator. I have been honored to represent the citizens of Fort St. John for the past 5 years as an elected official, and now seek the position of mayor of our energetic city. I am committed to building a stronger community for all residents and businesses, being a champion for economic development, and I believe in responsible financial management. I want to build a community that's welcoming, inclusive, has housing, healthcare, education, recreation, working with community and regional partners. Many issues are complex, and they require collaboration, compassion, and commitment to finding solutions that work for the residents in our community. I'm born and raised in the Peace region. I've been a resident of Fort St. John since my youth in the early 70s. I'm a businesswoman with strong family values. I'm actively involved in the community, including many nonprofit groups such as Rotary, Senior Housing, the Library, and the Spark Women's Leadership Conference. I have 20+ years of local government leadership experience, including provincial and municipal government, and I can put that experience to work for our community. I have a reliable track record working to build our community. In addition to being a city councillor, I'm a provincial export advisor, assisting businesses in Northeast BC to expand their business, whether it's across Canada or internationally. I own local investment properties, and I co-own an oil field company with my fabulous husband of 32 years. Why do I want to become mayor? Because I love my community. I love Fort St. John, and I can see the potential that lays ahead. I'm a fierce advocate for the community and committed to building a stronger community for all residents. On October 15th, I ask for your vote. Vote for Lilia Hansen for mayor.
And thank you, Lilia. Audience, every once in a while I can hear someone be like, I want to clap. We're going to save our applause for the end just to make sure that we don't get out of here too late. So thank you. It's really fun moderating in front of a Canadian audience because you're very polite. Candidates, we are now going to move on to the question period. What will happen here is we're going to move through 8 different topics tonight, 9 topics, my apologies: economy, indigenous relations, culture and arts, leadership experience, and more. What's going to happen is I'm going to ask a question, and you will have 90 seconds to answer that question. And again, we will warn you, and I will step in if you go past 90 seconds. Tonight, we will go back and forth. So we will start, Lilia, you will answer the first question. Stephen, you'll go second. In this order. So Lilia will start, we'll go this way. Stephen, you will go that way. And, sorry, Shannon, my apologies. And then Stephen, you will do that. Essentially what I'm saying is everyone will get a chance to go first. Everyone will get a chance to go last. Our first question tonight is, what leadership skills or experiences from your past do you have that you think will provide a foundation for leading an effective council? Again, what leadership skills or experiences from your past do you have that you think will provide a foundation for leading an effective council? Lilia, you will be going first.
Thank you, Ted. As I stated in my opening, I have 20+ years of government experience, and it's been a privilege to serve my community in the last 5 years as an elected official. It definitely has been a learning lesson. I've had a lot of good mentorship from my fellow councillors, from some of my past employers and supervisors that are here, so thank you for that. I have experience with municipal, provincial government. I also have investments in town, so when I do anything that adjusts our tax rate, I feel it. We also have an oil field company, so I also can understand the struggles that contractors have. In addition, I have a contract with the province of British Columbia, and I work with businesses. During COVID, thank you to the Chambers, RBL, and Community Futures, I was lacing up my boots. I was on this road and knocking on doors, talking to businesses, trying to find out what is keeping them up at night, what are their issues, how can we help? So I believe that my experience, whether it's with provincial government, past with the Chamber of Commerce for 5 years as their executive director, and now with the City of Fort St. John for a 5-year term, I've definitely enjoyed it. And I think having those connections and bridges to different levels of government can work for our community.
Thank you, Lilia. Stephen, it's your chance next to answer if you'd like. I sure can, yeah. So what leadership skills or experiences from your past do you have that you think will provide a foundation for leading an effective council? It's kind of a weirdly question. What leadership skills from your past do you have?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been a hard worker all my life. Right now, my job is I own a driving school in town here, so I'm teaching your young students to be a better driver and to make sure that their blinker fluid is topped up so we have no accidents in town here. But from my previous past, through owning a couple businesses with my parents and brothers, I was always the one that got the rough jobs because I was the youngest, and I passed that along to my kids and a couple, all the high school kids that we hired. I always train them, and they always come back to me and say, "Hey, Steve, I remember what you said on this and this and this," and they've taken it to heart, and I just take it to heart that they remember me, and I know there's going to be a lot of people in town here, kids, that will remember me about what I said about driving and stuff like that. So it just goes to my heart that I like to keep I don't know even how to explain it. It's just something that I like to do, just train and get feedback from everybody, open ears, and they keep coming back and telling me, so I must be doing something right. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. Shannon, your opportunity.
Throughout my entire life, I've been a leader. I've been someone who has taken the reins of different organizations. I've worked very hard throughout my life to build companies of my own. I've had employees. I've been involved in many different levels of involvement within the communities that I've been involved in. While I was in Vancouver, I was actually a political organizer with the Federal Conservative Party, running in several of their campaigns for elections at the national level. The primary thing, though, that I bring to the table is, I think, a lot of my experience with the churches that I've served or helped start. And I think the reason why that's important is not because of the fact that it's a church, but because it's dealing with people. And whenever you're dealing with people, you're dealing with every aspect of their life. You're dealing with their good parts. You're dealing with their hard parts. You're dealing with their drug addictions. You're dealing with many of the same things that we as a city need to be able to deal with. The hearts and minds of people. And so this is what I bring to the table, is my background in leading people. It's, in any type of new venture that I started, I would always enter in with enough knowledge to get going and enough effort to figure it out as I went along. And I think that that's exactly the same thing that I'll bring to the table this time. I have a passion to learn more.
Thank you, Shannon. We'll move on to our second question. And this time, Shannon, you will answer first. There is a clear doctor and nurse shortage in the Northern Health System in Fort St. John. What can the city do to assist recruitment and retention of skilled workers? That question one more time. There's a clear doctor and nurse shortage in Northern Health Fort St. John area. What can the city do to assist recruitment and retention of skilled workers? Shannon, it is your opportunity to answer first.
We have very little impact over what Northern Health does or doesn't do, in that we can't go into their offices and tell them to hire people. But we can do things such as advocating with them, saying, here are the needs within our community. Here's what we're facing. Here are the things that are impacting us as a society. And we need you to provide the services that we need in order to serve our community. Now, at its foundation level, I think that one of the key things that we can do is build a city that doctors and nurses will want to live in. And maybe that looks like bringing things into our city that we're maybe not used to, or things that we need to do within our community in order to provide the infrastructure that would be attractive to people who would say, well, maybe not the north, but maybe somewhere southern BC or a nicer climate to them. Some of the things that we can do, I think, are also to find ways to get in front of nurses and doctors themselves. I think one of the things that was suggested last night, and I thought it was a great idea, is getting out to the graduation ceremonies and maybe having a table or a booth at one of those events. Because sometimes we can't make organizations that we have no control over do the things that we would like them to do.
90 seconds goes by really fast. Stephen, your opportunity to answer second tonight.
Oh, this one rings right to my heart on this one. We have to start a coalition between all the cities in town here, as we are the major hub of the hospital, and advocate big time to get the doctors and nurses here. There's a thing, I just came back from Los Angeles, and I met a guy on the plane from Toronto, a healthcare aide, come from Toronto to work in our hospital, making more money. So why can't we take that money and put it all together in a pot and start headhunting for doctors, nurses, and our city has to take a big approach to this, and to get them to stay here, we're going to have to invest big time to keep our hospital open between Hudson's Hope, Dawson Creek. If we have a thing with Dawson Creek, we got to get together with them, and this area has to be heard, because I use the hospital quite often, and I'm tired of having to go out of town. I come here to live here.
You can still go. Keep going.
Oh, sorry, and not to leave town. So we have to advocate. This will be one of my big strong to get nurses and doctors, because there's nurses that have come here from Toronto, Newfoundland to work here. So we have to really get together on this one.
Thank you. Lilia.
Thank you, Ted. Medical services is one of our biggest social issues. It's a complex problem that requires collaboration and a commitment to finding solutions. Key tools to assist is advocacy and collaboration with our partners. We need to build relationships with our local health authority to keep lines of communication open so that we can lobby other levels of government together. Community building is a useful recruitment tool and something that we actually have control over as a municipality. It's important to understand the city's role. Our role is to support organizations that provide the service, not to provide the services ourselves. We don't have the staff or the expertise in-house to do so. We have to work within our specific scope of service, and as a friend has often told me, to stay in our lane, as I'm sometimes reminded. The city's primary role is to create a welcoming community that makes attractive and easier to recruit to. Our local nursing school is definitely a step in the right direction. Train in the north for the north. We need to put resources towards growing our own. We need to advocate for full-time paramedics and foreign-trained professionals to be fast-tracked, assisted with provincial certification with return of service agreement. The city's role is in recruitment, is to create a community that has amenities that people want to be part of.
Thank you, Lilia. We come to our third question, which you will answer first if you so choose, Stephen. A mayor is responsible for helping to guide a city through good times and bad times. Who do you view as the greatest ally to build relationships with to grow and sustain our economy? That question one more time. A mayor is responsible for helping to guide a city through good times and bad times. Who do you view as the greatest ally to build relationships with to grow and sustain our economy? Stephen.
Thank you. Business, local business, business in town. Everybody with little business, big business, we have to really feel what they want. And they're the ones that pay taxes along with everybody that owns a home here. We have to make sure that businesses stay in town and stay open. That's the best thing for us. A healthy business community means a healthy city or town. Thank you.
Thank you. This time, Lilia, you'll answer second. Next time when Stephen goes first, Shannon will. But for now, Lilia.
Thank you, Ted. So the question is, who is our greatest allies to grow our ECDEV? Definitely the Chamber. Our nonprofit organizations also help us. Also, working with our First Nation communities can help be beneficial to grow both of our communities. We have our businesses, our banks. There's all sorts of other organizations that can also assist us. The City of Fort St. John also has an economic development branch where they have a lot of talented people there. But bottom line, it's the neighbors. It's supporting, buying local. I think our community is the best options and source and allies for growing our businesses. So thank you to everyone who shops local.
Thank you. Shannon.
You know, hard times come everywhere, and getting through them is often done best by the support of those that are around you. Building a strong community, strong relationships with your neighbors, strong relationships with the people who you work with, the ones who you buy from. That's, I think, one of the primary sources of help in a time of need. You know, we don't know what's coming next. We could be going into a recession. We could be going into a time of prosperity. All depends on a lot of factors that are outside of our control. However, the one thing that we can control are the relationships that we build with one another. And so, by building a strong community, by building the strength of our relationships with one another, those are the things that we can rely on. I can't rely on any type of a business out there. They may end up being in more trouble than we would be. We could look at other organizations. They may be in trouble too. But within all of those businesses and relationships, at some level, if we're all committed to community, we will find a way to come together and find a way through that situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Our fourth question, which Shannon will answer first. Lilia will answer first, then Stephen, and then Shannon. The City of Fort St. John has many social issues facing it at the moment. If you become mayor, what are some of the issues that you plan to prioritize, and what are some of your ideas on how to deal with them? That question again, the City of Fort St. John has many social issues facing it at the moment. If you become mayor, what are some of the issues that you plan to prioritize, and what are some of your ideas on how to deal with them?
Healthcare, addictions, and mental health are currently some of our biggest issues that I'm hearing. They're not simple issues that can be solved overnight. These are complex problems. They require partnership, collaboration, compassion, and a commitment to finding solutions that work for our community and those that are in need. We need to continue to meet with ministers to advocate to have treatment facilities here. Community building and urban planning are tools that we can use, in addition to advocacy. Homeless issues. Ensure community partners hear us and work collaboratively, as expressed at the recent Overdose Awareness Day. Need for advocating for affordable housing. Council creates a vision through its land use plans. Those plans provide space for densification and innovation. Council then will advocate to the province for the support. Working with Northern Health on mental health addictions, as well as local non-province. We need to encourage the discussion of mental health in our high schools early, before there is a problem. Trying things that haven't been tried before. Learn from gains and mistakes, and keep trying. We need to speak to people who are on the front line. Ask them, forge relationships with them. Again, the role of the municipality is good planning, creating a welcoming community, combined with advocacy.
Thank you, Lilia. Stephen. I can definitely say it again. Yeah. The City of Fort St. John has many social issues facing it at the moment. If you become mayor, what are some of the issues you plan to prioritize, and what are some of your ideas on how to deal with them?
Well, I would like to advocate for mental health in this city and social housing, affordable housing, not single resident occupancy. We need to, there are brothers and sisters out there, you know, that have just been down on their luck. We can't just forget them. We have to do our best to get them some help if they're willing to get help, and I would like to just advocate for more mental health services for the people in town, because there is nothing for nobody here unless there's a waiting list, and that's my big would be the mental health, just to keep this city going.
Thank you. Shannon.
Man, that hits home. When you get to know me, you'll find out that this is a big part of my story. My father's mentally ill, and many of the addicts in town took advantage of my father. He was a walking ATM machine for many of them. And over the last 10 years, especially in the last 8 years when I became legally responsible for him, I was coming back and forth from Vancouver constantly dealing with kicking drug dealers out of the backyard who had set up shop, dealing with the fact that when my dad went away from town, these guys would break into my house or into his house and turn it into a flop house. These are things that have intimately impacted me and my family. Now, here's the other thing, is that by being in that flow of dealing with these everyday situations, I got to know a lot of these people, and they've had a tough life. And I think that one of the things that we need to do within our community is find a way to help them do better with their lives. Now, addiction is not within the purview of what a mayor would do, but a mayor's responsibility is to bang on the door of Northern Health and tell them that it should take more than years to get my father a social worker who would only see him once.
Thank you. Our next question, which Shannon, you will answer first. As a leader in our city, you're asked to be a champion for many different things. What is your plan to help fight the effects of climate change and make sure that our oil, gas, and energy industry continues to do well? Again, as our leader in our city, you're asked to be a champion for many different things. What is your plan to help fight the effects of climate change and make sure that our oil, gas, and energy industry continues to do well?
Thank you, Ted. You know, when we look at the people in our community, we have some of the best minds in the oil and gas field, as well as in the energy sector, as well as in the environmental field. In fact, some of the leaders within the gas and oil industry are also leaders within how to deal with these environmental issues. Championing both of those is not a either-or option. In other words, we don't have to choose one to choose the other. Or, I probably didn't say that right. They're not mutually exclusive. But I think that what we need to do is we need to begin having conversations within the industry saying, okay, we're building all of this infrastructure that's coming up through the Site C, the dam, all of this electrical infrastructure. How can we add new layers onto our economy that would allow us to then bring new types of industry into town that would take advantage of that infrastructure, as well as continue to promote the very rich resources that we have in oil and gas. Now, some of those things may be cold climate is a great place for a data center, which has a high need for electricity. I think Fort St. John could be a place where we have green energy use for data centers.
Thank you. Stephen. I can say that, yeah. You have an unlucky role that you're right in the middle, so it's hard to remember. Question is, as a leader in our city, you're asked to be a champion for many different things. What is your plan to help fight the effects of climate change and to make sure that our oil, gas, and energy industry continues to do well?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that I'm glad that Fort St. John does have a great recycling program here. I know my wife is adamant that I put things here, here, and here, and I don't falter that at all. My kids will be around. I've got my kids recycling. With the gas industry, that, I don't even know how to say that. They are working towards way better than what it was 25 years ago, I will say that. They were, I had somebody here talk to me the other day about they were digging up a pit out in Baldinel, 25-year pit with dirty soil, found garbage, hundreds of bags of garbage from oil field. I've worked in the oil field, and I've seen it come from, we put everything, one thing, everything was gone. Then it started coming up dirty oil, antifreeze, everything else. So I'm glad that they're on there, and I would love to see that keep going to where there is basically no waste if there's any possibilities, but there is going to be waste, and they are coming up with secure energy, squeezing everything out of fines and everything. So as long as we keep on with them in the Oil and Gas Commission, with them decommissioning wells and making, you know, everything kind of better. So I'm just...
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Lilia.
Championing climate change. This is not an issue with a quick fix. This is a global issue. We understand that our industries are actively engaged in innovating their operations for environmental sustainability. Our role is to advocate and to educate. We can do this through energy literacy and moving towards renewable energy. We need to support our oil and gas sector as they too fight climate change by looking at alternate sustainable solutions. As a consumer, we ourselves need to practice responsible consumption. I support LNG projects as I believe they will dramatically reduce our carbon footprint globally. We need to encourage green energy projects and opportunities which will create jobs. Focus on restoration and rehabilitation efforts to reduce our carbon footprint. Move towards electric vehicles where and when the infrastructure to support it is there. Work with industry and First Nations during transition and address cumulative efforts. Personally, I made a pledge this year to reuse my previous campaign signs with a fresh decal. So I think this is something, as a leader and as a resident, we can all do something. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, which Stephen, you'll have the chance to answer first, is this. On Friday, Canada observed the Day of Truth and Reconciliation. What have you done to educate yourself about the history of the TRC in and around Fort St. John? Again, on Friday, Canada observed the Truth and Reconciliation Day. What have you done to educate yourself about the history of truth and reconciliation in and around Fort St. John?
Oh, to be honest with you, that was not a good day for me. It brings back some memories. I had a few uncles that were in residential school, and I know quite a bit about it, but I just like to keep it in my heart and not talk about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next answer will be from Shannon.
So truth and reconciliation. I mean, two things that a preacher should be really important, should be really important to me, and it is. Unfortunately, that is quite often an issue that it's hard. It's hard because of the past for people of faith to say, I own this. But here's the thing about that, is that I do own it. Now, was I the one who made the decisions? No. But throughout my career as a minister, I've spent many times with other men and women who are Native and leading congregations of faith in places that have been deeply affected by this. Alert Bay, out on the island. I've got a dear friend there. I've been out there in their community. I'm part of walking with them through issues such as this. Now, your question is specifically, what have I done about that locally? Well, I haven't had enough time to do that locally, but my past should tell you that this is something that I'm committed to. Not just because I believe it'll help me in asking you to vote for me, but because it's actually part of who I am. It's part of my faith. Truth and reconciliation is a foundation of how I approach relationships with people. And so I'm committed to learning more. Even this past week, I went to the event for the first time. And I look forward to learning more in the future.
Thank you. Lilia.
Truth and reconciliation. What does it mean? Truth and reconciliation means to me is having the utmost respect and dealing with the uncomfortable truth. We need to hear these stories and take an honest look at the reality. The responsibility as an elected official is important. And this is something that was really driven home by Mayor Ackerman. So I really appreciate her encouragement for each of us on council to read the Indian Act and to get a grasp of it. Reconciliation doesn't always have to be a formal discussion. One-on-one conversations to listen can sometimes gain more of an understanding. We need to first listen to the truth and listen for answers. Acknowledging survivors and show respectfulness in our community is important. Coming together equally to begin the healing process. Working with First Nation communities to continue the conversation. Teaching our children history in age-appropriate ways. Get the truth out there and listen to our First Nation neighbors. It's important to also create that space for healing, allowing space to learn, have curiosity, and listen.
Thank you. Our next question, which Lilia, you will answer first, is this. As a mayor, you're going to need to make decisions about things that aren't your specialty. What are you going to do to help ensure that you've made the most informed decision you can? Again, seventh question. As a mayor, you will need to make decisions about things that aren't your specialty. What are you going to do to help ensure that you've made the most informed decision that you can?
This is definitely a day-to-day task for mayor and council. I think it's important that we definitely do our homework. Thanks to our fantastic rock star staff at the city, they prepare us reports. We begin by reading those. But from there, I think it's important to reach out to the community. Who do you know? You reach out to your partners, people that have the boots on the ground experience. I've learned it's really important on council. You need to ask questions. We do have thorough, fulsome reports in front of us, but you also have to do a bit of legwork just to get a better understanding. If you have a question about something, pick up the phone. Our community is very generous with their time. There's been many opportunities that I've had to reach out to different businesses to say, can you explain this to me? What are the pros and cons? So I think for this, it's definitely talking to your counselors around the table, talking to your staff, but reaching out to the community. There's always something more you can learn.
Thank you. Stephen.
Well, you know, when it comes down to it, is you got to do some, you know, you can't please everybody. You're going to make a mistake, you know, and I'm ready to eat crow. If I make a mistake, I will eat it. If I can't find it, I will surely get the answer for you guys. Legwork, homework, reach out to everybody that you possibly can. The internet you can take and just look at it, but mostly people all around you, your constituents, no problems to ask somebody on the street what they think or whatever, but you know what, I'm really new at this, so I'm ready to make mistakes and get my butt kicked, and I'll put my big panties on and I'll be able to handle it, and we'll be able to get through this. Thanks.
Thank you. Shannon.
Over the last number of years, I decided to go back to university and get my master's degree. And one of the things that I was afraid of during that period of time was, you know, it's been 30 years since I've been in university. Am I able to learn as an older person who has a 34-year-old daughter? And one of the things that I found out real quickly was that I actually had a passion for research. And I was able to dive into things at a high level that I didn't even realize that I was able to do. In fact, you know, it's like research has never been easier. But even though I love reading academic journals and getting into the nitty-gritty of finding out intricate things that I've never heard of before so that I can get to the bottom of it. What I found was more important was finding key people that knew more about that and talking to them, finding out what they knew, examining what I believed against what they knew so that I could reevaluate my position in order to come to a better understanding. I always say to people, if you want a better answer, you have to ask a better question. And that's what I've learned how to do, is to ask a better question from people who have those answers.
Thank you. Our next question, which Shannon, you will answer first, is our city has many diverse pastimes, from hockey to painting, from pickleball to acting. What is your vision for helping grow both the arts and our sports culture here in Fort St. John? Again, our city has many diverse pastimes, from hockey to painting, from pickleball to acting. What is your vision for helping grow both the arts and sports culture here in Fort St. John?
You know, we have a lot of great societies within this community, and I know that this is a sports community, but I also really value the arts myself. And so, you know, I understand that a lot of funding has already been put forward for the various sports programs, so I'd be very supportive of just continuing on with that. But I'm very interested in what can we do as far as creating infrastructure around the arts. You know, I love the Lido Theater, but, you know, it would be harder to do a Broadway musical here on this stage than maybe a larger facility. Maybe there are facilities that we can create that are part of a new recreation and sports complex that also have an arts component. And maybe that's something that we should look at, is how to integrate not just sports into a new complex, but also meeting spaces and places to do artistic expression, dance, theater, etc. I don't know all of the details yet. Obviously, there's a lot to learn, but my commitment is that we need to embrace people who have every type of interest within our community. Everyone's values are important to me. And so we need to make sure that we build the infrastructure and have the funding that's available to those who have these various interests. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, you're next.
I would like to see a new rec center along with the pool, but I would like to start them out young in a program, the young guys, to get out and, you know, parents for tots and arts and crafts, and start them young, and maybe to deal with the library, open up a section in the library to showcase local artists in here. I don't know if we have anything, or I haven't seen it yet, so maybe I need to get out a little bit more. But I know this is a big hockey town, and we have 3 rinks right now, but I think we could easily squeeze another 1 or 2 in. And I would be all for recreation. My kids are big on plays and stuff and acting and that. I would love to see more stuff like that here in town, and I would surely work with council to get money together to do something like that. Thanks.
Thank you. Lilia.
Ask what they need. Do they have a vision? Involve schools and families. Have drop-in events. Include arts and cultural events in addition to sports and city facilities. Provide opportunities to those who may not be able to afford them. Create space and acceptance for all. Connect to infrastructure and the creation of public spaces, and to help motivate and engage youth in arts in our community. Community building is key, and arts and culture is a key component of what makes it fantastic and vibrant. Encouraging our youth, I believe, is a great way to ensure the future of our arts and culture, and our community needs to be inclusive. We also need all these events to be available, affordable, and relevant. Activities need to be diverse to encourage engagement in literature and expression and art. Engagement doesn't have to be complex. It's about being present, asking for ideas, listening and engaging, and finding out ways that our community wants to hear back from us. How do they want the engagement? That's the only way that we're going to be able to continue our work on that. If we have the message out there, we need to reach the people who need to hear our message.
Thank you, Lilia. Our next question has a bit of a preamble to it, so I will make sure that the question is highlighted. People in BC are concerned about high home prices, which are now out of reach for many British Columbian families. In the past decade, housing prices in BC have risen by more than 50% in some communities. A July 2022 Ledger survey found that addressing the high cost of housing in BC is a top concern for many British Columbians. The main cause of unaffordability that local governments can address is the low supply of homes. Recently, the BC government has published roadmaps for addressing issues of housing affordability through something called the Development Approvals Process Review and the BC Canada Expert Panel on the Future of Housing Supply and Affordability. The question is this: if you're elected, what measures will you take, either from personal experience or from the DAPR, or the expert panel, in order to streamline approvals, fast-track developments, and overall bring more housing supply to our market? That question again: if you are elected, what measures will you take, either from personal experience or knowledge, or from the DAPR or the expert panel report, to streamline approvals, fast-track developments, and overall bring more housing supply to the market here in Fort St. John? Stephen, you are the first one. It's the complicated question. Do you want me to highlight it one more time? Yeah. So the last question is what will you do to streamline approvals of housing, fast-track developments, and bring more housing here to Fort St. John?
Well, first off, I would have to do a lot of reading and find out what this is all about. Work with Counsel, work with any agencies that we can work with, and really, I don't know nothing about it, and I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing, but it's going to be something that, as I say, if I don't know it, I will find out, and I will get back to you. You know, my door is open all the time, so I'm going to be honest with you. I would have to really read up on this one. Thanks.
Thank you. Lilia, you're our second answer tonight.
In my experience, many times it's the residents of Fort St. John that's providing affordable housing. You might have a duplex and you might be renting out one side to a neighbor. You might have sold your first home or purchased your next home. You decided to keep your first home and rent that out. Many times it's the residents within a community that is providing that housing stock when it's not there. One thing that as a municipality we can do, we can streamline the application process. We have worked on it in the last few years, and I know that they've really tightened it up. They've reached out and communicated to developers. We want developers to come to our community. We have a short building season, so what can we do to make it most attractive? If we can have them come here to know Fort St. John is open for business, they'll be more keen to come here. But we also want to make sure that we're not going to cut corners to save a few dollars. We have in the past year, we have waived the development service costs for a seniors housing project in Fort St. John to get that initiative going. The seniors demographics is one of our largest growing in Fort St. John, so we can help get shovels in the ground by making it more easy for the process for the developers and trying to help our nonprofits get lower interest rates through the BC building and working with our seniors and nonprofit groups. I think we can work in partnership, so it's creating those partnerships and collaboration.
Thank you. Shannon.
You know, it's interesting because down in Vancouver right now, they're talking about, in one of the platforms in another civic election, a 3-3-3 strategy, which is if you're building a residential home, we'll have your permits and everything approved within 3 days. If you're doing multifamily, we'll have it done in 3 weeks. If you're doing a large complex development, it'll be 3 months. The primary hindrance to development is bureaucracy. And if we can find a way to streamline that, now I don't know much about the approval process here in Fort St. John yet. Like Stephen, I'm going to find out. I do know this, is that I think we only have about 50 houses a year that are being built. And yet we're on track for needing about 1,000 new people added to the community every year. And I don't know how that lack of housing supply equates with our infrastructure needs. And so I think that these are important things to look into. We could do things like laneway houses, approve people to build suites above their garages, creating an environment where legal suites are an acceptable thing within the society, within the community. All of these things are within the purview of council, and I would look forward to looking into that more and finding out ways that would be appropriate for this community to make those changes.
Thank you. Our next question, which you will answer first, Lilia, is this. The City of Fort St. John has recently invested money into projects like 100th Street, Centennial Park, a new roof on the North Peace Arena. What is your vision when it comes to infrastructure and capital projects? Again, the question for all candidates. The City of Fort St. John has recently invested money into projects like 100th Street, Centennial Park, and a new roof on our North Peace Arena. What is your vision when it comes to infrastructure and capital projects?
Capital projects such as our RCMP building, upgrading our community parks, building the Pomeroy Sports Centre, those were paid with funds from the Peace River Agreement. So it is important for residents to realize there is a distinction between tax dollars, government transfers, and grants. The Peace River Agreement Fund has also paid for replacing our water and sewer lines, building or repairing roads, and hopefully soon towards building a multiplex with a leisure pool. There's lots of ideas on the board, whether it's also including a gymnasium, soccer pitch. Those are a few ideas on the board. We need to take a long-term approach when you're planning capital budgets. Infrastructure is vital and at a greatest risk if it's not maintained, resulting in large costs to property damage. Roads, sewer, storm system pipes, they're not glamorous, but they're all very important, and they're costly. Council needs to prioritize the importance of road rebuilds and overlays, ensuring funding is there to do the work. Community building is a priority as it assists with recruitment and retention of residents in our businesses.
Thank you. Stephen, what is your vision when it comes to infrastructure and capital projects?
Well, infrastructure, we need infrastructure to have growth in this city, because if we don't have the infrastructure, there will be no growth in the city to handle sewers, water, and everything else. We need water. We need a plan for clean water for the next 25 years. Roads, capital projects have to be done, at least a few every years. It comes out, as Lily said, out of a different pocket, but we need to build a contingency fund to also do our own capital projects. The pool will be one, the Peace River Regional District will be kicking in. I was under the understanding. So yeah, we need infrastructure in this town to make this town grow.
Thank you. Shannon.
Infrastructure is the heart of a city. And, I've been out knocking on doors, and good thing I'm driving a Jeep, because in the southeast corner of our city, we have actual chunks of pavement that are missing in some of the roads. If you drove a car, you'd destroy it driving through that section of town. One of the things that I was talking with another one of our councillors is that over the last 10 years, we have increased the number of roads in our city by over 100 kilometers, and yet our budget hasn't kept pace with that need. And so I think one of the key things that we need to do is looking at how do we maintain an effective road system within our community. Now, obviously, there's also the need for sports and recreation facilities that are also infrastructure. And so looking at how we're going to develop not just a pool, but a multiplex recreation arts center, that would be something also that I think is going to be a priority. Now, whether the Peace River Regional District is part of that or not, we still need to go ahead with it, even if they're, in the end, are going to have to pay additional fees in order to use it if they choose not to be a part of that. I hope that they are, because it's always better to do things together with those that are around you. Other infrastructure projects, there are probably a dozen different things. I'm getting emails about different things from different people in the community. But I think that the key is we need to focus on our roads. We need to focus on the arts and recreation and sports complex.
Thank you, Shannon. Our next question, which Shannon, you'll have the opportunity to answer first, is this. Last year, Mayor and Council reviewed the compensation of Mayor and Council salaries. What are your thoughts about the current compensation? And where do you stand on increasing the rates during your term? That question again. Last year, Mayor and Council reviewed the compensation of Mayor and Council salaries. What are your thoughts about the current compensation? And where do you stand on increasing the rates during your term?
Well, that's always a difficult one. Here's what I believe. I believe anyone who works for any job that they do should be compensated at the rate that's appropriate for that job, for the size of the community that job is, or for the scope of the work that's being done. Now, honestly, I don't know whether or not the role of a mayor or a councillor is appropriate compared to other communities. One thing I'm committed to, though, is fairness. And so if those rates are below what they need to be, then I want to increase them up. But if they're at an appropriate rate for the work that's being done, then there's no need to increase that. So it really comes down to what's fair. I wouldn't want anyone in this audience to be withheld a fair income for the work that they do. And I don't think that you would want that for any of the people that serve you in this community either. Now, does that mean that I think that we should take advantage of a position like that? Absolutely not. I'm not in this for the money. I'm in this to serve the people of the community. And that's at the heart of a decision making. What's best for the people, but also what's fair for everyone.
Thank you. Stephen, what are your thoughts about the current compensation and where do you stand on increasing the rates during your term?
Well, we're all going through hard times right now, so I wouldn't expect anybody to get a bump up in salary. But if it's a fair wage, is a fair wage. I wouldn't expect you to dig a ditch if I wouldn't dig a ditch, right? And I would say if I was lucky and I was voted in, I would probably just keep it the same, or I would almost donate half my salary back, because I'm not in it for the money. I just want the experience and the whole of the community to prosper. Because if I'm raising taxes and I'm raising rates for everybody else, I don't think that's really fair. If we're asking to cut, and here we're dishing it out to us, I don't think that's fair at all. I wouldn't expect that at all. Thanks.
Thank you. Lilia.
That is a really good question, and I can see it from two sides. We did have a resident who reached out to us by formal letter to say, hey, if you want more people to be interested in council, you've got to pay a good wage. So I do respect her very much for her point of view, but I also see it from another side of the table. There's many that work in the oil field or different companies and have contracts. They've been asked to cut their wages. When this came forward, I couldn't agree with it as it was originally presented. However, and I think I'm the only one that can speak on here as a current councillor, I was in agreement, though, to have a different proposal submitted. We have put forward to have it reviewed in 2 years' time. So after this new council is in place, in 2 years' time, we will have that come back to council for review and discussion. And if it is decided by council to go ahead, it will be put in place, but not for the current council of the day. It will come into effect for the next council in 2 years following. I think that was the fairest way to do, because when you're hired for a job, if you're coming on to council, you know what the remuneration is when you come on board. I don't feel comfortable with giving myself a raise It's something that has to be earned. It has to be something that also the community feels is needed if we would like to see more and diverse people here up on stage for the next
Thank you.
election.
Thank you, Lilia. Our next question, which Stephen, you will get to answer first. A mayor holds a special role in a city as they help make decisions for the good of the whole town. How will you ensure that you're representing everybody in this town to the best of your ability? Again, that question one more time. A mayor holds a special role in a city as they help make decisions for the good of the whole town. How will you ensure that you're representing everyone in this town to the best of your ability?
Well, Don, I'm going to say I'm going to be honest. I'm here for the people. I wear my heart on the sleeve. My door will always be open. You're an ambassador, being a mayor for the city, so you would like to do, you know, I'm going to say that if I'm not doing my job, somebody's going to be mad. And if nobody's mad, and I'm not doing my job. So I'd rather have flack and say, hey, we're here. I'm here for you guys. If you guys phone, email, whatever, I'll answer you. I'll walk to your door and tell you. And if I don't know, I will get the answer to you right away. But I'm here for you guys. I'm a blue-collar worker, and I'm going to be honest with you. Politics is right here, right now, and I want to be right up there. So if you stand by me, that's great. But all I want you to do is get out and vote on the 15th. Bring that voter population up and make it fair for everybody.
Thank you, Stephen. Shannon, your opportunity to answer next.
Well, I think that it is important that you represent everyone, you know, and that's probably one of the things that people are concerned about. That person doesn't believe like me. That person has different values than me. Will they represent me? And at the heart of that is a fear that the heart of the person standing in front of them isn't for them. And that is one of the things that I want to assure everyone here, is that my heart is for you. It doesn't matter what you believe, how you live your life. It doesn't matter. All of those things that you value are things that you value. And because of that, it's important that as a mayor, I acknowledge that. And whatever that means within this society, that I need to be able to stand up and say, you know, these are the people of Fort St. John. It means that we need to eliminate this idea that people are on the fringe of society. We either have a society or we don't. We don't have people who are in the center and who are on the edge. We only have a whole. And the sooner we embrace all aspects of our people and say, you know, you may not like me, you may not think like me, you may not believe like me. However, we're here, we're together, we're a community. And so whatever that means as a mayor, then I'm here for you. Now, I may still believe differently, and that's okay, because otherwise I don't have my own place in this community. And if I can have a place in this community, then everyone else can too.
Thank you, Shannon. We're down to our last two. Oh, yes, Lilia. Sorry, I was so excited to ask the next question. But yes, Lilia, I would be remiss if I did not allow
That's
you.
okay. I'm not shy. So how will I represent the community to the best of my ability? Asking questions. That is something I have learned time and time again. If there's ever been a time I've regretted something, it's because I know I did not ask enough questions. Listening. If you're going to ask a question, listen. Nothing's more frustrating than somebody asking your advice and then they don't even, you know, go any farther with it. You have to learn to lean on your counsel. We have a strong, diverse council with a strong background and different knowledges and life experiences. Talking to our staff, getting advice and direction, putting out surveys, hosting charrettes and open houses, talking to people, going out to where the people are. Don't just wait for them to find you, although they do usually at Safeway or the grocery store somewhere, but you go to them. And decisions aren't always easy to be made, but ultimately you have to make the best decision for the betterment of the community.
Thank you, Lilia, and my apologies. Our next question, which Lilia, you will go first. If elected mayor, where do you see the city in 4 years when we come to our next election? What will be the biggest changes that you would have directly influenced? Again, if you elected mayor, where do you see the city in 4 years when we come to our next election? What will be the biggest changes that you as the mayor would have directly influenced? Lilia.
I've been a community champion for years. I love Port St. John. It's my hometown. I can see the potential that we have because we have amazing people here and nonprofits. So it wouldn't be something that I would be doing, not on my own. It is something that we would build as a team, as the community. I'm hoping very soon when we have our new councils and mayors and people in the regional district, I would like to sit down and have a solid conversation to go, okay, let's pull the pin. I would like a decision to be made about our rec facility. I would like to see a multiplex. I would love to see it have not only a leisure and recreation center, but also to have a gymnasium where we could have multiple rooms. We can have soccer pitches for volleyball, basketball. I would also like to see us continuing with our park revamps. We've done a great job with Kin Park. We're moving shortly on to Sararis. We've got work there happening already. Also continuing with our roads. Our roads are important, as was pointed out. I think it's important that we make sure that we're looking after our residents and also hopefully having recruiting more doctors and nurses in healthcare. So it's creating those partnerships, working with our stakeholders, and taking it to the next level and rebuilding.
Thank you. Stephen, you're next. Where do you see the city in the next 4 years, and what will be the biggest changes that you as mayor would have directly influenced?
I would like to see better getting along with the Peace Regional District instead of fighting. I would like to see a good, healthy balance. I would also like to see money coming from BC Hydro for water, fresh water for us for the next 25 years. We need water. Those wells down in Taylor, I don't know how long they will go for, but I hope there's a plan that we will have fresh water, and we might as well go for it right now while hydro is in the house to get something like that. I would also like to see the roads, and I would love to see that amongst everybody for that Taylor Bridge to get done here. We need that. And just the harmonious between council. Everybody gets along and we do the right thing for the people. Spend the right money, not overspend. Because we're going to go through a tight time right now. And we need a big bankroll. Thanks.
Thank you. And Shannon.
You know, we've talked about infrastructure. We've talked about all of these things that are important already. And so I'm not going to repeat myself in those areas. However, here's the one thing that I want us to have as a city in 4 years. I want us to have a city where our children will want to return home to, just like I did. I want to have a city where we, as a community, are people who care about one another and who have one another's backs, even if we disagree with each other. Where neighbors help one another with different issues in life. Where we have food security, where we have a concern for the environment and also for economic development, and where we look at our future together and say, this is the type of city that I want to build, not for me this 4-year period, but here's what I want for my great-grandchildren in 40 years. That's the type of community that I believe that we'll be able to build, and we'll be able to build it by beginning to pull together as a community and working on things with a long-term vision, building the type of city where the downtown core becomes a livable, habitable core with vibrant shops and entertainment, where the things that have been already begun get continued on to the next step of development. What that looks like really is up to you, working with us at City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, do all three of you have pens? Because this next question, I have a pen for you, actually, Stephen. And I have a piece of paper for you. Actually, I'll just give you this. Because there's a lot that I'm about to have paper to write things on? I'll give you a backup paper here. So there's paper for you. The only reason why, this is the teacher in me. You'll have to go to the blank side. Excellent. You're going to have to go to the blank side as well. Excellent. I apologize. I'm going to list 8 things, and I don't want you to have to remember them. Tonight, we've touched upon 8 separate topics. They were, and I would encourage you to write these down, the economy. We've talked about healthcare. We've talked about social issues. We've discussed our energy sector. We've talked about our Indigenous relations. We've talked about infrastructure, art and culture, and housing. One more time, we've talked about economy, healthcare, social issues, the energy sector, Indigenous relations, infrastructure, art and culture, and housing. The reason why I asked you to write those down are, when you're elected, what will 3 of your top priorities be out of that list coming in? Again, what will 3 of your top priorities be out of the list of things we talked about tonight? I will give you a second to circle those, and then our final answer will go Shannon, Stephen, Lilia. So again, out of the economy, healthcare, social issues, the energy sector, Indigenous relations, infrastructure, art and culture, and housing, what ones would you consider your 3 most important priorities?
Tonight, obviously, social issues is going to be a top priority for me. How do we deal with drug addiction within the community? How do we deal with homelessness that's a result of addiction? How do we deal with all of those repercussions throughout the fabric of our society that are the things that actually keep us from being a good society, helping one another? The other thing, obviously, is we need good infrastructure. And I've already mentioned about the roads. I've mentioned about the multiplex, and I am saying I think we need to make it more than just a multiplex for sports. It needs to encompass every aspect of our society, so that includes places for arts besides recreation. And obviously housing is a key thing. One of the great things about Fort St. John is that a young family can come here and start out life. And if we build a good city together, they'll stay. In our high school, there was a survey. 30% of our high school students want to leave town the minute they graduate. 29% want to stay, but there are 41% that are undecided. I want to build a society here that convinces those 41% to stay in town.
Thank you. Stephen, you have the next opportunity to answer. Out of the list that we've talked about tonight, what are 3 of your top priorities?
My first off would be healthcare. We need to get on the bandwagon and get together and set Adrian Dix up in a corner and don't let him leave until we get the answers. And that's with every mayor in town, in every city, and don't let him leave until we get the answers. If it means staying for a couple days, we'll stay a couple days. Doesn't matter. We need healthcare. We need doctors. We need nurses. My wife is a healthcare nurse, healthcare aide, and they're overworked, underpaid, underappreciated, and I like her coming home happy. And I would love to see more workers, more to do with the government passing that they don't have to get them fast-tracking through the system a little bit more. I know they just opened up 128 doctor spots in Vancouver, so there we got 8 years before they get out in the field. Indigenous relations, we need them. They're our voice. The bigger, the better. They will help us, we will help them. It's a 50-50 deal. Infrastructure, we need the infrastructure in town. It's aging. I know everybody complains, not complain, but to get a little bit owly on it, that there are potholes. I drive roads every day. I am out there every day. If you see my little car buzzing around, I'm sorry if they didn't.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks.
And Lilia.
So out of my three, I'd like to start with the economy. When it comes to economic development and sustainability, we need those dollars to provide the amenities that our residents are seeking. It also stabilizes our economy by having diversification, which is key to maturing or managing tumultuous economic times. We need to take a hard look at taxation for businesses and encourage diversity and create an environment that attracts investment. I also believe on infrastructure and capital projects, which helps build our community, which will lead to attraction and retention of professionals wanting to be involved in our community, to invest and to stay. I also would promote arts and culture, which adds to the quality of life. And it also has a component that adds to economic development, as well as employee and professional attraction and retention. I think all three of them are key. But my main priority would be economic development. If we have that, we'll have the building blocks if we're looking for the housing, if we need for our seniors, our nonprofits. It's one of those factors that if we want to have our other amenities, we need to support our businesses and bring that in.
Thank you. Well, good news, candidates. You finished my questions. So now we're going to move on to our next segment. If you'd like, you can now ask each other a question, or two, or three. And how this is going to work is somewhat like a classroom. For instance, I will start with you, Shannon. You may ask the other two a question. The other two will have 90 seconds to answer. And then, Shannon, you can also answer your own question. At that point, Stephen, if you have a question for the other two candidates, you may ask them, and they will also be able to answer, and you can answer your own question. And Lilia, you as well. We do have a little bit of time for this, so if we find that we're clipping through questions, great. And if we find that we have entered, we don't have any questions, we can always move on as well. So we'll start with Shannon. Shannon, at this point, do you have any questions for your other candidates? I can come back to you as well. Yeah, you can come back. Yeah, I can do that. Great. Stephen, would you happen to have any questions for your other two candidates? It's a bit tough. You've just been spending all the time answering questions, so formulating is probably not at the tip of your tongue. I can also come back to you as well. Damn. Lilia.
So my fellow counselors will know I always have a question, and so does the staff that's here. So I'm going to start with Shannon. Shannon, can you please tell me, what relationships do you have with stakeholders and other levels of government to be successful in advocacy if you're elected for your 4-year term? Again, my question is, what relationships do you have with stakeholders and other levels of government to be successful in advocacy in your 4-year term?
Well, I've only been back in town for 1.5 years, so I don't have a lot of those relationships yet. However, I'm beginning to develop them. This morning I met with the superintendent of the school district just to ask questions, just to get to know what the issues are, and to find out what the issues are that would interface between those two different realms. So I think the real answer to your question, Lilia, is that while I don't have all of those relationships yet, I'm working hard to find them and to develop those relationships. I'm a people person, and I'm committed to the hard work of forging those relational alliances and collaborations within the various levels at any level of government. Now, a lot of my contacts that I have right now, they're maybe not here. Maybe one of those contacts that are down south will come in handy one day. I don't know. But right now we're talking about the local economy, we're talking about the local society, and right now I'm working on it.
Thank you. Stephen, I'll also give you the opportunity to answer if you would like.
First off, I just want to know what stakeholders you're talking about, like the RCMP.
Yeah, go for it, Lilia, if you could clarify.
It could be that if you want, or it could be Northern Health or the school district. How about perhaps the ministers? Am I correct? You're with driving, so you might have contacts at the government agent's office. That would be a good one.
The only one I deal with, well, two of them is just the BC Services, ICBC. I deal with them on a, try not to get in there once a month. And Dawson Road Maintenance for reporting potholes on the highway. And but I tell you, I'm going to be learning a lot if I'm truly elected. I'm going to be doing so much reading and so much getting out there. My poor little legs are going to be like chicken legs. Thanks.
Welcome. Lilia, you also have the opportunity to answer your own question as well.
Okay. Well, it's one thing to ask a question. If you're going to ask it, you got to be prepared to answer it yourself. So some good people there at Service BC. I enjoy going in there myself and talking with them. As mayor, in this role, you really got to be able to hit the ground running in this position. It's not one where you could just take your time, taking months or years. You have to be able, when there is something that is urgent, because that's what comes to you. It's not, get back to me when you can. No, somebody needs an answer right away. So what I bring to the table is 20 years of government experience, whether it's provincial, municipal, whether it's being able to reach out and making those connections to our ministers, from Ministry of Highways, Ministries of Education, Ministry of Jobs and Economic Recovery, whether it's reaching out to our government agent, whether it's reaching out to my conservation officers or BC Parks. That is something that I bring to the table, and I believe very strongly you need to have that relationships and to go forward on it.
Thank you, Lilia. We can actually, we have the opportunity to ask more. So Shannon, I put you first, so what questions might you have for your candidates?
Yes. I guess the questions that I would have for both of you would be this. You're both very embedded in the community and have been here a long time. What experience do you have from outside of this community that helps you develop ideas and perspectives that are not shared by the fellow people within this community, so that we can bring new ideas that are embedded in the values within this community that actually help us become better?
Lilia, I'll have you answer first.
Many of you here know me. I'm a first-generation Canadian. My parents love Canada. They came from other countries, but they definitely instilled in me the love and the pride they have here. So what I can bring is the cultural experiences that my parents had, the good and the bad. My mom always told me, if there's something that I taught you that will help you, my daughter, please use it. If it's not, then don't use it. So I think because my parents have a love of this country, and I've been able to travel quite extensively, and also with my family that I have, I think that also brings what you learn from other places, talking with other individuals, and hopefully I've answered his question. Basically, what experience do I have outside of this country? I have family in Mexico, in Hungary, in the United States, talking to them, what issues they face there, what are things that are working for them, what can I bring back to my community? So I think having that love, but that encouragement to embolden and to embrace Canada wholeheartedly, that is what I bring to the table.
Stephen.
I was born and raised here in British Columbia. And my parents were born here and raised in British Columbia. Hard work is what I've learned. And my two biggest heroes in my life right now are my brother and my son. My son is a Vancouver police officer walking the downtown beat in Vancouver. And I have not slept in 7 years, it seems like, because I worry about him every day. And he keeps me on a level keel. He lets me know what's happening. And my brother is also a police officer. And through his, sometimes I don't like him, but most of the times, he is full of wisdom. He lets me know, he says, just stand back, ask a question. Somebody's got a better answer. Listen. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to listen. As I said, I am new, and I'm here to listen. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. Shannon, if you'd like to answer your own question.
Thank you. You know, I've lived in Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto. I've lived in many of the communities throughout the province of BC. And in each one of those places, I've picked up ideas and thoughts about how to run a city. I've experienced what it means to be a part of different groups of people who approach life differently based on their weather, their culture, their values, their economic status. And in each one of those places, those experiences that I've had have shaped me, have helped me. The other thing that I have experienced is that I have clients that are national in nature. I help run an organization of leaders across the nation. And by interacting with all of these people, I have the pleasure and the joy of hearing their ideas and encountering their life through their stories. And so in many ways, when I came home to Fort St. John, I brought those stories with me. I brought those ideas with me, while still understanding the values of why I returned here, not wanting to change it, but to improve it.
Thank you. I would like to open to the floor, but Stephen, I'd like to give you an opportunity. Do you have any questions? Awesome. I agree. For those of you who can't hear Stephen, he's congratulating his other candidates. Thank you, Stephen. I would now like to open it up to the floor. So this is how this works, audience. I'd like to welcome you. We have our microphones here and here. I would like to remind you, you have 1 minute to ask your question. Our candidates have 90 seconds to answer, or a minute and a half. I'd also like to remind you about being respectful and also forming your question in a way that all of our candidates can answer. So again, if you'd like to ask a question, you can come to the microphone. You have a minute to ask your question, and please form them so all of our candidates can answer them. We also have some questions coming in from online that were pre-submitted. So Cheryl, you get to do some exercise tonight about walking back and forth. Do you want me to switch places? Do you want me to go there or you go there? Oh, you got a mic. This is why you're in charge, Cheryl.
I have a mic.
Excellent. So these questions were pre-gathered from some online audience members before today.
Right. You caught me off guard.
I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, just so you know as well, if we could get a quick round of applause for our timekeeper, because Cheryl moves very quickly. So if we could thank our timekeeper for having...
All right. Well, we'll wait. We do want people to come up to the microphones. That's a priority. You guys took the time to come out here, so we want you to be able to ask your questions as well. But in lieu of that, while we wait for people to form a line, I will ask a question. Should we... should we say who this is from? Alexandra Oldham. And she asked, should we be investing in new technology in terms of the city's infrastructure?
So that question again, should we be investing in new technology when it comes to our city's infrastructure? Lilia, you have the opportunity to answer first.
I think it's important to invest in new technology. There's always ways that we can streamline, become more efficient. Even in council chambers, there's technology that I know we would like to have updated on that. So to answer your question, yes, I just wish I could ask some more follow-up questions. Was there any background on it? I think when it comes to technology, it is something you've got to balance out. Can we afford it? I mean, there's lots of nice, bright, shiny things that we want. So I guess you'd have to go, what do I get out of it for the cost of it?
Thank you. Stephen.
I would say yes, we should, but as long as it's not a cost that's going to dig into something else, let's just keep it clean and keep everybody, well, we can't keep everybody happy, but we need to even keel as long as it's not going overboard. But yes, we do need it.
Thank you, Stephen. Shannon.
Technology is great if you're not on the bleeding edge of it. And as long as we're implementing proven technology that actually helps us move forward with the vision of the city, I'm for it. I don't want to take on projects that are experimental in nature. I mean, that's always a risk to any company, and I've owned technology companies, so I understand that sometimes you can have a great idea sold to you by a salesman, but it isn't necessarily something that will take you all the way down the road. Technology changes so quickly these days. So, but there are other types of technology. There are like new types of pipes and non-electronic technology that I think that we need to look at. I mean, we're working on infrastructure, pipes in the city. That's a technology. Maybe there is a type of technology in the piping systems that will actually help us to be able to amortize those costs over a longer period of time. I don't know. But I'm all for technology as long as it's not the bleeding edge of technology.
Thank you. We have a few audience questions. I yield the floor to you, sir.
Tom Whitten. So I'm going to, on that topic of technology, I'm going to talk about how busy the world is these days. You're talking about TikTok, MySpace, whatever it might be. The technology is rampant for our children and for young adults. How do we get them involved again? How do we get them out to events like this? How do we get them involved in everything that's happening in the city?
So Shannon, you get the opportunity to answer this first.
It's a great question, Tom. Actually, I was talking about this very thing with Stephen Petrucci this morning about how do we use some technology with the younger generation to actually engage in the political process and to get them involved in the idea that this city is theirs and that they actually have a voice. There are things like ThoughtStream and Bang the Table, which are online tools and technologies that we can use to move the conversation from a platform like this where people have to come out and do things in an environment that maybe we grew up with and we're comfortable with, but that our children or grandchildren are not. And so I think that the real question is, how do we adapt to their new reality? How do we create a society where we engage with them in the way that they see themselves on a day-to-day basis when they're on TikTok and Instagram and, you know, probably not Facebook anymore, but, you know, that's the way technology works, right? I mean, things come, things go. So engaging them with the technologies that they are comfortable with, even though they may not know about them yet, there's a good, easy crossover that we can make when we help them see that we're actually embracing their world rather than asking them to embrace our world.
Thank you. Stephen, you have the opportunity to answer next.
I don't know, this one's going to be a hard one. This has been going on for quite a few years now. I think it's going to have to start in the home. You know, I think there's going to have to be a little bit of tough love involved. I know those kids are like this. There's no typing class in school anymore. They're born like this. And I think it all begins at the bottom and will work its way up to the top to get them involved. I'm going to a school here on Friday. They're having a little election, and they want to know what a mayor does. And I'm going to tell you, I learned a lot tonight what a mayor does, and I'm going to have a little more opportunity to tell them what they do. But yeah, I think it all starts with home. It has to. And I think there's going to be a few mean kids, a few broken screens, but I really don't know how else I can say that at all. Like, honest, that's it.
Thank you. Lilia.
Thank you, Thomas, for your question. If I understood it quickly, it was how do we get kids involved and out to events, away from technology? I think as elected officials, we can go out to schools and we can have those face-to-face meetings, get them excited about it. And thank you to Margaret Ma Murray Elementary School. They had me out to talk to 70 10-year-olds. That was a bit of intimidating, I'm telling you. I think it would help having families and schools, involving youth in activities, making sure the events you bring them out to is relevant so they get excited. Engage at their level and what they're interested in. I think if you're going to draw somebody in, you've got to find that kernel that gets their interest, and then from there you can build on it.
Thank you. We have another question. I'll lower it for you.
Hi, I'm Heather Bottiswell. I lost my son in 2018 to a fentanyl poisoning. I joined Moms Stop the Harm, and I have been running against cement walls and find that the city has talked the talk but not walked the walk. Just because you show up for an overdose awareness day doesn't mean you're doing anything in the community. What will you do to stop our people from dying? Thank you.
Lilia, you have the chance to answer first.
To begin with, I want to say, as a mother, my heart goes out to you. There is no words that anyone can ever say that would ever heal that. I think as the city, we need to work in collaboration and partnership. We need to work with Northern Health. We need to work with other stakeholders. There are groups that have lived experience that can also give that direction to the city as to how we can help on it. I believe the city's role in this is definitely about advocating and educating, definitely getting the message out into schools. I believe we need to attack this before it gets to be a problem. Instead of us putting out fires, let's try and get that education out there. And when somebody is sick and they need that medical attention, we need to find them recovery. They need to have facilities to help them get better. This is a health issue. And I think as a municipality, we can also work very hard when we're talking to our ministers and other organizations to say, what can we do about having those facilities open so that our residents and hopefully nobody else will lose another child because they will get to be there and get that treatment. And that's all I believe most parents are asking for. Please help my children, help my husband, my wife, a friend. So yes, I think that we do need to have those facilities, and I really hope that we can continue and advocate and not have any more deaths.
Thank you. Stephen, it's your opportunity to answer.
Well, this community, I know, has its problems with that. I see it. I've heard about it. I don't know what they're doing about it, but the way the provincial government goes about it is all wrong with letting them have a little bit here and a little bit there. I don't know how this is going to cure the problem. We need to get the health department involved in this, the RCMP. We need to attack it before we get to town here. We need to set aside more money for patrols and to get them, I don't know, it tears my heart because there are human beings, they're brothers, sisters, they need help. We all need help to get them help. And I just hope that we can find a way to get this problem with housing and treatment centers. Like, it's going to take a long time, but it has to be done and it has to be started now, not later.
Thank you, Stephen. Shannon.
I will say this, and that is Northern Health is responsible. They're responsible for a lot of these things that we're talking about. And my role as a mayor is to hold them accountable for their actions and inactions within our community. One thing I know about addiction is this. No addict really wants the drugs. There was a study by Dr. Venero in 2018 where they took rats and they put them in a cage and they gave them the option to choose whether to push a button and open a door and allow another rat into the cage with them for social interaction, or to choose another button in order to get a methamphetamine drug. 90% of the time, the rat chose social interaction with another rat. When they withheld social interaction from rats, they, after a 15 to 45-day period, had a higher desire for drugs because social interaction was withheld from them. So I know that the primary issue we're talking about is a social one. We're talking about friendship. We're talking about social interaction. I'd like to see the community groups within our city do more as far as elevating the level of social interaction, whether that be churches or social groups or sports clubs. Include people who are on the margins. Reach out to them. invite them to be a part of your team. Invite them to be part of your game. Those are the ways that we
Thank you.
combat
Thank you, Shannon.
this.
Hello. You have our next question.
All right. So what will your approach to supporting the LGBTQ plus members of our community ensure that they feel safe and valued?
Shannon, you have the opportunity to answer this first.
Within our community, everyone has a place. And we need to remember that everyone within our community has value. Now, I'm not the one to answer that question for you. I think that your own community has a whole, what do you call it? They have things that they would like to see happen within our community. And many of those things are being done, and I support them. I think that in our community, the role within our society, I'd like to say this, is not to make a safe place so much as to make our people strong. And so whatever I can do to help the people that are feeling vulnerable in that area to become strong in who they are and what they're struggling with, that's what I would do. Now, I don't have the answers there. I'm just being honest. It's not in my wheelhouse as far as things that I've put a lot of time or thought into, but it's something that I am open to hearing more on. I'm willing to sit down and talk and find out what is it that you want.
Thank you. Stephen, you have the opportunity to answer second.
Well, I've got something for you. I'm a proud father of 2 rainbow children. So I understand. They're a part of our community. They are our community. They are our brothers, sisters, cousins, and I would support them. I would fight tooth and nail for them because I love my son, I love my daughter, and my son's going to be the first gay police chief in Vancouver. I've told that right from the beginning, go big or go home. And he's working his way up there, so it's right here. I would walk across nails for anything, for them. They're people. They're human beings. We all need to show a little empathy. And that's all I can say.
Thank you, Stephen. Lilia.
Thank you. I would ask their community, what do they need or have as a vision? How can I help? Sometimes we come up with great ideas, but it's not necessarily what they're looking for. So having that conversation. Organize drop-in events. We have events at our Fort St. John Library, so thank you very much to the Pride and for Taffy for being involved in that. Those are 2 awesome organizations. We've been fortunate to have Taffy come and talk to Sunrise Rotary to explain to us about their organization and their mission. So I think it's having those conversations, inviting them out to your clubs, but going to their events as well, finding out about them, what they're doing. They're very active in our community. Attend their events, show your support, learn and listen.
Thank you, Lilia. I would like to encourage, if we have any more questions from the floor, you can come down. I'll check in with our online questions. Do we have another question from that was pre-submitted?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the time too, and this might be a great question to wrap up with for our audience ones online. And it's from Jesse Chapman, and it is, why have you decided to run for City Council?
We will start, we will start with Stephen. You have the opportunity to go first this time.
I did it. I took the chance. I've never done anything like this in my life. This has raised my blood pressure about that high right now. I'm going to be honest with you. I want to see my grandkids stay here in this community. I love this community. I work in this community. I opened up a business in this community, and I never thought I'd open up a business in my life. I thought I'd be working for somebody else for the rest of my life. But I took the chance. And I took the chance to move up here. I worked around here. I thought it was a beautiful community. It offered everything that anywhere. The only thing I do miss is the mountains. I have to drive a little bit further. But I wanted to do some service, give back, because I don't even know how to say this, but I feel in my heart that this was good for me. I hope it's good for you. I just want to learn, and make you guys proud.
Thank you. Lilia.
I think that deserves a round of applause. Like, that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to invite him to my Rotary Club. We have got breakfast tomorrow and bacon. 7 a.m. Sorry, honey, I'm inviting a guy out for breakfast. I hope that's okay. So why do I want to be mayor? Because I love Fort St. John. I love my community. I see the potential that it has. And I'm a fierce advocate for our community. And I'm committed to building a stronger community for all residents and businesses, being a champion of economic development. And I will continue to do so, bringing their voices, bringing their concerns, their priorities to the table, and being their advocate. I think the best part of being on council is people will approach you and they will tell you what is going on in their life. And one of the things that I enjoy the best is solving challenging problems, especially when you can see the solutions make someone's lives better. That is the ultimate.
Thank you, Lilia. And Shannon.
You know, at the heart of who I am, I believe that people are the most important in everything that we do. And I've dedicated my life to serving people. When I just, here I am now at the next stage of my life, and I can literally live or work anywhere in Canada. I chose to come home because of the values that I know are embedded in this community. The people were what drew me back. And so when I felt called to come back and serve this community, I was going to do it in the way that I always had done before. And then I realized that there was an opportunity to serve people in a bigger way by helping this community become even better than it already is. And I love the people here. They're people that have helped me with my family throughout the challenges that I've encountered, and who have been with me through thick and thin. I've lived in their homes. I've cried with them over the pain that we've encountered together. And that's the type of community that I wanted to serve. And this is, I think, one of the best ways that I can do it, was to help us become better, help us become stronger, help us become more.
Thank you. And that's going to bring us to our closing remarks. You no longer have to answer any questions, and congratulations, because that's one of the most difficult things for a human to do. What we're going to do now is we're going to ask each one of you to speak for another 2.5 minutes, I believe, to tell us why we should vote for you. We will do this the opposite as we did opening statements. So Lilia, you will go first, Stephen, you will go second, and Shannon, you'll have the opportunity to go third. Lilia, on your own time.
Thank you, Ted. I understand the role of a mayor and have the multifaceted skills required to do the job. The mayor needs to build a competent team and speak for council as to the decisions made at the table. The mayor has to be well-versed on what's going on in the community and regional issues. I have that knowledge and that ability to collaborate, have compassion, and commitment to finding solutions that work for all citizens in our community. My priorities include economic development, which are at the center of the future development of our community. It creates the tax base for the community to build the services and facilities that attract and retain our professionals. In order to have a successful economic development strategy, we must have adequate housing, healthcare, education, and recreation opportunities for future investment. I'm asking that you vote for experience, collaborative, compassionate, and committed leadership. In closing, many hands make light work. I'd like to thank all the organizers listed on the screen behind me for making this event possible. And especially to all those who took the time to attend the forum this evening here at the fabulous Lido. And to those at home watching on Alaska Highway News and Energetic City's Facebook page. I'm here because of you, to work for you. I'm available for conversations anytime, including tonight after the forum. I'm reliable, I'm hardworking, and I have a proven local track record. On October 5th, 12th, and 15th, please vote for Lilia Hansen for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilia. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Well, first off, I'd like to thank you guys for showing up. Good on you. Now we just need you all to vote. Why would I want you to vote for me? Well, first off, I'm honest. My heart is right here. It bleeds red. I figure I'm up for the job. A mayor is an ambassador, not just in the city, throughout the whole province. I know it's going to be a learning curve for me. I just am a voice that will not quit. I will go right to the bitter end to get something that means for this community. As I say, I'm new at this. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to promise you nothing. I'm going to lay it out on the line. My door is open. As I said, there's no coffee. There'll be water. My phone is always on. You want a phone in the middle of the night? Phone in the middle of the night. I am here. These guys here are amazing. You guys got a hard pick. And I hope that when it comes to the date, that you do get out and vote. Vote for myself, I would like, but just get out and vote. I'll be here for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. And Shannon.
Well, as I've said tonight, I returned home because of the joy of growing up in the North and the values held by you, the people that live here. I bring home my experience, my compassion, and my leadership, gained over 30 years in business and leading communities of faith. What that experience taught me is that a mayor needs to know more than just the inner workings of a city, something that I am committed to learning in the months ahead. What a city really needs from a mayor at a time like this is someone who knows how to listen and lead. This is because a city is not just about balance sheets and strategic plans or infrastructure and tax rates or economic development and housing, even though each one of those are important and all the other things that we've talked about tonight. But here's the main thing. A city is about people. People who have different beliefs and values and lifestyles. People who have their own hopes and dreams, who want something better for the next generation. People like you. You see, a city is not run like a business. You can't fire your citizens or outsource them. We're here together forever. As long as we stay in the city, we're with one another. A city is a community where the hopes and dreams of all your people have value. Some people define themselves by what they're against, but I define myself by what I'm for. And I'm for the people of Fort St. John. I am for you. If elected mayor, I will listen to you. If elected, I will serve you. And I ask that on the election dates of the 5th, 12th, and 15th, that you vote Stange for mayor.
Thank you. To our three candidates, I wanted to personally thank you. You've done tonight what many people fear the most. You've stood up in front of others, you've talked, you've answered questions, and above all, you've been open and vulnerable. That is something that is truly terrifying. So if I could ask the audience in joining me in giving our candidates tonight a round of applause. I also wanted to thank you, because you took your time out to come here, to sit for 2 hours and to listen and to learn. And that's extremely special. So if you're sitting with someone next to you that you know, or if you don't, I would like you to turn to someone and say, thanks for being here, and give them, I'm a high school teacher, so we say high fives, but just like say hello. Say thank you for being here. So thank you to our wonderful audience. The last thing that I really would like to do as well is, behind the scenes, we do have a little bit of a technical team. Thank you to our press, who are making sure that the rest of Fort St. John can hear this. Thank you to our online audience, who is watching as well. Thank you to our technical crew. We have Adam, who's back there manning some of the cameras and things. And thank you to Brian for making sure that the microphones are on. And thank you to Cheryl for making sure that we stayed on time tonight. If we get a thank you for our background crew, they are fantastic. Cheryl, I yield the floor to you.
Well, the other person we really need to thank is you, Ted. You did a brilliant job moderating and asking all the right questions. So thank you. And like you said, I don't want to get near a speaker here, but like you said, these are the people who have stepped up and put their hearts on the line to become the people who are going to lead this community. So we all appreciate, you know, your bravery for one thing, but it takes a big person to want to, you know, take on this job. So we appreciate it, and we look forward to what the future holds from one of you special people. So thank you so much for coming tonight. Ted, great job. Thanks to everybody. And I just need to quickly apologize. I think I said BC Housing earlier, and it's not. It is the Real Estate Board of Northern BC. My apologies as to one of our sponsors. So thank you again to everybody for coming out. And on behalf of the Fort St. John and District Chamber of Commerce, get out and vote. Thank you.